Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jataha Pachakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsa Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Saidvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahaguna Lalita Shri Vishaka Nivitam Sa Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presta Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Praskatya Desatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Tinamini Shri Vasavanavi Devi Dayitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vigyana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhur Ujvala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostate Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudapa Apasiddhanta Dvantaharine Namo Gora Kishoraya Shakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padambujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachidananda Namine Gora Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gora Vir Baba Bhumestvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhoma Shri Jagannatayate Namaha Vanchakalpa Turabhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahabodhanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Guru Chase Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhakta Avataram Bhakta Akyam Namami Bhakta Saktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Jayatam Surator Bangur Mama Manda Matergati Matsarva Swapadam Bojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyadrindaranya Kalpadumadaha Shimad Ratnagara Simhasanastito Shimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prastali Bihi Sevyamanu Smarami Shimad Rasa Rasarambi Vamsivata Tatastita Karsan Venus Swaner Gopir Gopinatak Striyestuna Tapta Kanchana Gurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivindam Hare Krishna Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Guru Pranama Prayers Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Bol. So today we are continuing in 2nd Canto, Chapter 9, and verse number 35. And it says, Yata Mahanti Bhutani Bhutesu Cha Vachesu Anu Pravistani Tata Tesu Nates Vaham Yata, just as Mahanti, the universal, Bhutani, elements, Bhutesu, Ucha Avachesu, in the minute and gigantic, Anu. In the minute and gigantic. Anu, after. Pravistani, entered. Apravistani, not entered. Tata, so. Tesu, in them. Na, not. Tesu, in them. Aham, myself. O Brahma, translation by Srila Prabhupada. O Brahma, please know that the universal elements enter into the cosmos and at the same time do not enter into the cosmos. Similarly, I myself also exist within everything created and at the same time I am outside of everything. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So let me just read that translation one more time, a little slower. O Brahma, please know that the universal elements enter into the cosmos, and at the same time do not enter into the cosmos. Similarly, I, myself, also exist within everything created, and at the same time I am outside of everything. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The great elements of material creation, namely earth, water, fire, air, and ether, all enter into the body of all manifested entities. The seas, mountains, aquatics, plants, reptiles, birds, beasts, human beings, demigods, and everyone materially manifested, and at the same time such elements are differently situated. In the developed stage of consciousness, the human being can study both physiological and physical science. But the basic principles of such sciences are nothing but the material elements and nothing more. The body of the human being and the body of the mountain, as also the bodies of the demigods, including Brahma, are all the same ingredients, earth, water, etc. And at the same time, the elements are beyond the body. The elements were created first, and therefore they entered into the bodily construction later. But in both circumstances, they entered the cosmos and also did not enter. Similarly, the Supreme Lord, by His different energies, namely the internal and external, is within everything in the manifested cosmos, and at the same time He is outside of everything, situated in the kingdom of God, Vaikuntha Loka, as described before. This is very nicely stated in the Brahma Samhita 5.37 as follows. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabhis Tabir Ya Eva Nijarupataya Kalabi Goloka Eva Nivisata Kilatma Bhuto Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. This is Brahma Samhita 5.37. I worship the personality Godhead Govinda, who, by expansion of his internal potency of transcendental existence, knowledge, and bliss, enjoys in his own and expanded forms simultaneously and enters into every atom of the creation. This expression of his plenary parts is also more definitely explained in the same Brahma Samhita 5.35. Ekopya so rachayatum jagaranda kotim yas jaktirasti jagadanda chaya yadanta andantarasta paramanu chayantarastam govindam adi purisham tamaham bhajami. I worship the personality of Godhead Govinda, who, by one of his plenary portions, enters into the existence of every universe and every particle of the atoms, and thus unlimitedly manifests his infinite energy all over the material creation. The impersonalist can imagine or even perceive that the Supreme Brahman is thus all-pervading, and therefore they conclude that there is no possibility of his personal form. Herein lies the mystery of his transcendental knowledge. This mystery is transcendental love of God, and one who is surcharged with such transcendental love of Godhead can without difficulty see the personality of Godhead in every atom and every movable or immovable object, and at the same time he can see the personality of Godhead in his own abode, Goloka, enjoying eternal pastimes with his eternal associates, who are also expansions of his transcendental existence. This vision is the real mystery of spiritual knowledge, as stated by the Lord in the beginning of Sarahasyam tad angam cha. Where did he say that? Sarahasyam tad angam cha. This mystery is the most confidential part of the knowledge of the Supreme, and it is impossible for mental speculators to discover by dint of intellectual gymnastics. The mystery can be revealed through the process recommended by Brahmaji in his Brahma Samhita 5.38. Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena Santaksadesu Hidayesu Vilokayanti. Santaksadaiva Hidayesu Vilokayanti. Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship the original personality of Godhead, Govinda, whom the pure devotees, their eyes smeared with the ointment of love of Godhead, always observe within their hearts. This Govinda, the original personality of Godhead, is Shamasundara with all transcendental qualities. Therefore, although he is present in every atom, the Supreme Personality of Godhead may not be visible to the dry speculators. Still, the mystery is unfolded before the eyes of the pure devotees, because their eyes are anointed with love of Godhead, and this love of Godhead can be attained only by the practice of transcendental loving service of the Lord, and nothing else. The vision of the devotees is not ordinary. It is purified by the process of devotional service. In other words, as the universal elements are both within and without, similarly, the Lord's name, form, quality, pastimes, entourage, etc., as they are described in the revealed scriptures, or as performed in the Vaikuntha Lokas, far, far beyond the material cosmic manifestation, are factually being televised in the heart of the devotee. The man with a poor fund of knowledge cannot understand, although by material science one can see things far away by means of television. Factually, the spiritually developed person is able to have the television of the kingdom of God always reflected within his heart. That is the mystery of knowledge of the personality of Godhead. That's why it says Rajavidyam Rajaguyam Pavicham Itam Uttamam Pratyakshavagamam Dharmam Susakam Kartam Avyayam. So this Rajavidya means this is the supreme knowledge, and Rajaguyam, the supreme mystery or secret. And what is the mystery? That the spiritually developed person is able to have the television of the kingdom of God always reflected within his heart. This is the mystery of knowledge of the personality of Godhead. The Lord can award anyone and everyone liberation, mukti, from the bondage of material existence. Yet, he rarely awards the privilege of love of Godhead, as confirmed by Narada. Muktim dadati karhichit sma na bhakti yogam. This transcendental devotional service of the Lord is so wonderful that the occupation keeps the deserving devotee always wrapped in psychological activities without deviation from the absolute truth. Wow. Thus, love of Godhead developed in the heart of the devotee is a great mystery. Brahmaji previously told Narada that the desires of Brahmaji are never unfulfilled because he is always absorbed in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, nor has he any desire in his heart save and except the transcendental service of the Lord. That is the beauty and mystery of the process of bhakti yoga. As the Lord's desire is infallible because he is achyuta. Similarly, the desires of the devotees in the transcendental service of the Lord are also achyuta, infallible. This is very difficult, however, for the layman to understand without knowledge of the mystery of devotional service, as it is very difficult to know the potency of touchstone. As touchstone is rarely found, a pure devotee of the Lord is also rarely to be seen, even amongst millions of liberated souls, kotisvapi mahamune. Out of all kinds of perfections attained by the process of knowledge, yoga perfection in devotional service is the highest of all and the most mysterious also, even more mysterious than the 8 kinds of mystic perfection attained by the process of yogic performances. In the Bhagavad Gita 1864, the Lord therefore advised Arjuna about this bhakti yoga. Sarva guyatamam bhuya shinume paramam vacha. Just hear from me again about the most confidential part of the instructions in Bhagavad Gita. The same is confirmed by Brahmaji to Narada in the following words. Idam Bhagavatam nama yanme bhagavato ditam sangraho yam vibhutinam tvam itad vipuli kuru. Brahmaji said to Narada, whatever I have spoken to you about the Bhagavatam, as explained to me by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was explained to me by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and I am advising you to expand these topics nicely so that people may easily understand the mysterious Bhakti Yoga by transcendental loving service to the Lord. It is to be noted here that the mystery of Bhakti Yoga was disclosed to Brahmaji by the Lord himself. Brahmaji explained the same mystery to Narada. Narada explained it to Vyasa. Vyasa explained it to Sukadeva Goswami, and that same knowledge is coming down in the unalloyed chain of disciplic succession. If one is fortunate enough to have received the knowledge in the transcendental disciplic succession, surely he will have the chance to understand the mystery of the Lord and that of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the sound incarnation of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. This is an amazing purport and a lot of nice verses quoted by Prabhupada. O Brahma, please know that the universal elements enter into the cosmos and at the same time do not enter into the cosmos. Similarly, I myself also exist within everything created, and at the same time I am outside of everything. Okay, now how do we understand this? It's on 2 levels. The first level that we can understand this is definitely that earth, water, fire, air, and ether make up the material body that we have on the gross level. And on the subtle level, there's mind, intelligence, and false ego. So, the earth, water, fire, air, and ether are in this material body that we have, and they're outside of it also, in mountains, and rivers, and caves, and all over the place is earth, water, fire, air, and ether. On this planet and other planets. So that's one level of understanding what he says here, that, O Brahma, please know what Krishna says to Brahma. O Brahma, please know that the universal elements enter into the cosmos and at the same time do not enter into the cosmos. Similarly, I myself also exist within everything created, and at the same time I am outside of everything. So on the second level of understanding this is that earth, water, fire, air, ether are in the cosmos, but at the same time they are coverings of the cosmos, coverings of the universe. So there's earth, water, fire, air, ether. And besides that, mind and intelligence. So there are 7 coverings of the universe. Of course, there's no false ego because false ego is something false. So the universe is covered by 7 layers, and each layer is 10 times bigger than the previous layer. So, let's take a look at that. Yeah. Anyway, this that's more specifically explained in the 3rd canto, Srimad Bhagvatam. When we get there, let me see if it's also mentioned in this Bhagavad Gita. It should be, but maybe it's not. One second. Let me just see here. Universe. Okay, so doesn't look like it's mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Let me just see one thing. Expands 563. 563. If it's not mentioned, then I will get that. I'll give the reference to that from the 3rd canto tomorrow. What is it? Universe expansions. Where is that? Expansions 563 and 64. 563 and 64. Okay, so I will find that reference tomorrow. So therefore, what is Prabhupada doing here? He's giving, or what is Krishna doing here? He's giving an example of something we know. We know that material elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether are in this material body. And they're also outside of this material body. And on one level, on another level, they're in the material universe, and they're on the outside of it, on the covering it. So he says, please know that the universal elements enter into the cosmos and at the same time do not enter into the cosmos. Similarly, I myself also exist within everything created, and at the same time I am outside of everything. So he gives first an example of something we can know and actually experiment and determine as this is a fact. And then he uses that, what we know, to help us understand something that we don't know, and that is how Krishna is within everything and outside of everything. You see, so to be a good preacher, you have to know how to convince people of things that they have no possibility of knowing by simple pratyaksha or anumana, by direct vision or by inference. So this is real preaching work. And in the same way, in the dialectic spiritualism, yesterday we read where Prabhupada says, first of all, Shamsundar tells Prabhupada, Hegel wanted to reverse the trend from abstraction to from being abstract to being concrete. He believed that every phenomenal object has its relationship with the whole, which is reality. To understand reality, we must examine all objects and relate them to the whole and to each other. So that's what Hegel says, right? And now, let's hear what Prabhupada says. He says, that is our process. The whole is Krishna, and everything is related to Krishna. Because we see everything related to Krishna, we do not artificially renounce anything, but try to use everything in the service of Krishna. Although the Mayavadi philosophers say that everything is Brahman, their process is neti-neti, not this, not that. In this way, the Mayavadis say that Krishna and his worship are also Maya. Our philosophy is that everything is a manifestation of Krishna's energy. The energy and the energetic are one. Narada explained, Idam hi Vishwam Bhagavan Iveitaru Yato Jagat Sthana Nirodha Sambhava Tadi Swayam Veda Bhavams Tatapite Pradesha Matram Bhavata Padarsitam. This is Srimad Bhagvatam 1.5.20. The Supreme Lord, Personality Godhead, is himself this cosmos, and still he is aloof from it. You see, it's the same thing. It's saying here, I myself also exist within everything created, and at the same time, I am outside of everything, right? Then it says, from him only has this cosmic manifestation emanated. In him it rests, and unto him it enters after annihilation. Your good self knows all about this. I have given only a synopsis. Bhagavatam 1.5.20. The whole universe, now this is a Prabhupada's statement, the whole universe is Bhagavan, Krishna, but it appears to be separate. How it is not separate can be understood through Krishna consciousness. Ordinary men think of Krishna and non-Krishna, but there is no non-Krishna. That is illusion. Everything is Krishna. Yeah, because everything is made of Krishna's energy. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego, all these things, and real ego, all these things are coming from Krishna. So the material nature is coming from Krishna. The jivas are coming from Krishna. And all the different expansions of Krishna and the demigods and all the jivas, they're all coming from Krishna. So everything is the energy of Krishna, but yet Krishna is aloof. He is not in any way under the influence of three modes of material nature or time. He's not affected by anything. He's completely transcendental. So everything is Krishna, but Krishna is not. It says everything is Krishna, but Krishna is not everything because he's still independent of everything. So that is achintya bheda abheda tattva, inconceivably and simultaneously one and different. Okay. So then Hegel says nothing can be separated from the spiritual whole. No, let's talk more about this. So this is also explained in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 4th and 5th verses, where it says, 9th chapter, 4th and 5th verses, Mayatatam idam sarvam jagat avyaktamurtina matstani sarvabhutani nachatesu na chaham tesu avastita. This means what? By me, in my unmanifested form, that's talking about the super soul, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. So how can all beings be in Krishna? Well, by his universal form, Virat Rupa. But I am not in them. No, he's always in Goloka. Goloka Evasat. He's in Goloka enjoying transcendental bliss with his devotees. And that's said here. Goloka eva nivasat akilatma bhuto. He says that who by expansion of his internal potency of transcendental existence, knowledge, and bliss, enjoys in his own and expanded forms. Simultaneously he enters into every atom of the creation. or ekopyaso rachayatum jagadanda kotim yastirasti jagadanda chayayaranta antantarasta paramanu chayantarastam govindam adipurisham tamaham bhajami. I worship the personality of Godhead Govinda, who, by one of his plenary portions, enters into the existence of every universe and every particle of the atoms, and thus unlimitedly manifests his infinite energy all over the material creation. Yes. And also, that is also confirmed in the 10th chapter, and where Krishna says, in the 10th chapter, verse number, Atava bahunaitena kim gyatena tamarjuna. So, kim gyatena tavarjuna, visistabhyaham idam krishnam ekam senastito jagat. But what need is there, Arjuna, for all this detailed knowledge? With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. A single fragment. That's why here it said also that I worship the personality of Godhead Govinda, who by one of his plenary portions enters into the existence of every universe and every particle of the atoms, and thus unlimitedly manifests his infinite energy all over the material creation. Okay, so that is those two verses are very similar. So that's 942 and Brahma Samhita 5.35. Also, Srimad Bhagavatam, 8th canto, 3rd chapter, 17th verse says, the entire material world is maintained by Paramatma. So that's what he means by just a fragment of his energy. Or when it says that my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. So that is Paramatma or Super Soul. Also in the Srimad Bhagavatam 1:16-26, Prabhupada writes, the Lord by his Brahma Jyoti is all-pervading and inside or outside everything like the sky, and thus he is omniscient. So in two ways he's present everywhere, by his Paramatma expansion and by his Brahma Jyoti. Therefore it says, Sarvam Klavidam Brahma, that the Lord is everything. Okay, so this is very interesting if you want to be able to preach in an effective way. So Prabhupada would begin with the known to understand the unknown. And because why? This material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. So therefore, everything in this world exists also in the spiritual world, but in its pure form. And here it's in a contaminated form. So there are many examples that can be used. Now, these examples are called analogies. Now, in a letter that Prabhupada wrote to one of his devotees, he said, an analogy is not proof. Shastra is proof. But we use analogies for people who don't believe in Shastra to help them understand these transcendental realities by something that they know. So they know that the body is made of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And the same elements are inside the body and outside the body. So therefore, this is something in the material world. And we can use that example to help them understand something in the spiritual world. How Krishna is within everything and at the same time outside of everything. Okay, so then to continue, Here was another. We discussed this yesterday, but I'm going more into detail. Now, for more detail, we go to also 10th chapter, 8th verse. Aham sarvasya prabhava matak sarvam pravartate iti bhatva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. Krishna says that everything material and spiritual is coming from me, right? I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. So, there's some more proof that Krishna is within everything and without everything, and everything is made of his energies, and everything that we see is made up of basically his two main energies, which is matter and spirit. But actually, matter is also spirit, and that is going to be explained in this next discussion between Shamsundar and Prabhupada. So Shamsundar says, for Hegel, nothing can be separated from the spiritual whole because everything is related to it. For Kant, the phenomenon is the mode in which things in themselves represent themselves to the individual. So, this is not so clear what is being said, but now Prabhupada picks up on it. He says, it is explained in Bhagavad Gita that Krishna has two energies, spiritual and material. His spiritual energy is described as superior and his material energy as inferior. These designations are given for our consideration because we cannot understand otherwise. But the fact is that there is only one energy, the superior spiritual energy. When the spiritual energy is covered by ignorance, it is called material energy. The sky is naturally clear, and we can normally see the sun. But when there are clouds, we cannot see the sun. Still, the sun is there. When we cannot see Krishna or understand him, we experience what is called the material energy. The fact is that there is nothing material because everything is spiritual. So, the material nature is also spiritual energy because it's coming from Krishna. So this is an amazing analysis, much more profound than Hegel, who was one of the biggest scholars and philosophers in the West. But he's nothing. He's like a mosquito compared to Krishna. So the fact is that there is nothing material because everything is Krishna. Yeah, everything is Krishna. Krishna says he's the origin of everything spiritual and material. He says that he pervades everything in the material world in this unseen form of the supersoul. And also, in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagvatam, Janmadasya yata nivayad itaratas jarteso vigya swarat tene brahma hridaya adhikavayi muyanti yat suryaha tejo varimadam yata vinimayu yatrati sargomasha damna svena sada nirasta kuhakam satyam param dhimahi. So, here it says that Janmadasya yata, that everything is coming from me. Everything material and spiritual. The entire material creation is coming from Krishna. So, therefore, and there are known energies of Krishna and unknown energies of Krishna. So, the scientists only know a few, maybe 2 or 3, or maybe maximum 4 energies of Krishna that are material. But there are many more. And besides all those energies, there's all the spiritual energies that the scientists don't know about at all. They refuse to know about it because they say it's not scientific to know about things that we can't measure. So there's so many things they cannot measure. All right, so Janmadasya nivayad itaratas chartesu vigyaswarat. So this material cosmos, or the material creation, is made of Krishna's energies. But it is bewildering to the mundane scientists and philosophers, because certain things seem to be real, but in reality, they are not real. So where is that said? So Shamsundar says, Hegel says that objects themselves are the spirit expressing itself in objective nature, whereas Kant maintains that the spirit expresses itself through objects. There's a distinction made between the spirit within the object expressing itself and the spirit as the object. Yeah, obviously there's bewilderment here due to the speculators, Kant and Hegel and Plato also. Srila Prabhupada, the object as it is spirit. In other words, the real substance of everything is the soul. The soul and the supersoul. That's the real substance of everything. And everything else is just a category or a relative truth, because it depends on the existence of the soul. The soul is the real thing, and everything else is relative. However, Prabhupada continues, the object as it is spirit. In one sense, the sunshine is not the sun, but at the same time, it is not different from the sun because it is the sun's heat and light. Therefore, our philosophy is achintya beda abeda tattva, simultaneously one and different. All these objects are actually spirit, but if we have no sense of Krishna, we consider them to be material. So everything depends, in a sense, on the consciousness of the living entity. If the living entity understands the philosophy of Krishna consciousness correctly and in depth, he knows that the real substance in everything is the soul. And there's two souls. There's the individual Jivatma and there's the Paramatma. And then everything else is related or relative to the soul, the existence of the souls, the Jivatma and Paramatma. And then Prabhupada continues. So if you don't understand, or if you have no knowledge of Krishna, then you consider everything to be material. So Prabhupada continues, sometimes people criticize us for using material devices like dictaphones, typewriters, and airplanes. But we reply that these things are spiritual. If they are used for our sense gratification, they are material. But if used in relation to Krishna, they are spiritual. It is the consciousness that is important. See? The consciousness of the person. Srila Rupa Goswami says, Anashaktasya Vishayan Yatarham Upayunjitaha Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagyam Uchyate Prapanchikatayas Budhya Hari Sambandhu Vastuna Mumukshubihi Parityago Vairagyam Falgu Katyate. One is said to be situated in the full renounced order of life if he lives in accordance with Krishna consciousness. He should be without attachment for sense gratification and should accept only what is necessary for the upkeep of the body. So that's the minimalist explanation of the life of saintly people. On the other hand, one who renounces things which could be used in the service of Krishna under the pretext that such things are material, does not practice complete renunciation. So this is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.255 to 256. So we read this yesterday. We're going over it again because it's extremely important. So everything has its relationship with Krishna. Rejecting everything as false is artificial renunciation. That's what the Mayavadis do. Our method is to renounce things for our sense gratification, but accept everything for Krishna's satisfaction. Krishna says, Mam Shayovi Bicharina bhakti yogena sevate sagunam samatityaitam brahma bhuyaya kalpate. 14:26, Bhagavad Gita. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature, and thus comes to the level of Brahman. So Prabhupada says, as soon as we engage fully in devotional service, we are immediately spiritualized. When we are in devotional service, the spiritual quality of everything is revived. In truth, everything is spirit, but it is covered by our material consciousness, just as gold may be covered by mud. If we cleanse the heart, we immediately understand that things are spiritual. In material consciousness, we conceive of ourselves as Americans, Indians, men, women, and so on. But when we come to our spiritual consciousness, we realize, I am Krishna's servant. Thus we understand that we are spiritual. These material conceptions are like dreams. When we are dreaming, we may think that we are this or that, or that we are performing so many acts. But when we are awake, we understand our real identity. Because we are part and parcel of Krishna, we have no duty other than to serve Krishna. When this consciousness comes, everything is spiritual. When this consciousness comes, everything is spiritual. Okay, so these are amazing statements by Srila Prabhupada, but he's simply stating what Krishna has said himself originally, and what the acharyas have also repeated. Now Prabhupada, because he's a bona fide acharya and Mahabhagavat devotee of the Lord, he's also repeating verbatim, not adding or subtracting anything. That is parampara. Nothing is added or subtracted. It's as it is, spoken originally by Krishna and validated and reaffirmed by the acharyas. Okay. So, there's also more evidence here. So if we go to the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the 10th and 11th verse. Whoa. Let's take a look at that. The 9th chapter, 10th and 11th verse, and where it says, Maya dakshena prakriti suyate characharam hitananena konteya jagat viparivartate. This material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. So it's created, it's maintained, and then it's reabsorbed into the body of Mahavishnu, or waiting for the next manifestation of the material world. But the material energy itself is never destroyed. It's only the forms. Just like if there's a potter, there's a potter's wheel, and there's the clay. So the potter takes some of the clay, puts it on his wheel, pushes the wheel to turn, and he begins to mold the clay into a pot. So that pot is made of clay. And he makes so many things now with his potter's wheel. And he sells them. There's cups, there's plates, there's dishes, there are, you can make an oven. You can make so many things with clay. You can make forms, like you can make a deity. There's so many things you can make with the clay. And eventually, they will deteriorate. They'll be broken, or they'll be forgotten somewhere, and then they turn back to just clay. So the clay is made of material energy. It's eternal. But all the things you made with the clay, they're just temporary. And when they go back to being clay again eventually. Therefore, in the material world, there's such a thing as the conservation of matter and energy. Now, this is extremely important to know, because basically they say that matter and energy cannot be are eternal. They just change from one thing to another, but you can never really destroy it. So here we have something eternal in the material world. That's the law of matter, law of conservation of matter and energy. Matter was proven to be indestructible by Lavoisier. He was a French scientist, and he experimented with matter for a long time, and he saw that matter goes through different stages. You can take water, and it's liquid. You can freeze it, it becomes a solid. You can boil it, and it becomes a vapor. So therefore, it's never really lost. The vapor will come back, like the sun will evaporate water from the ocean and then move it and form clouds, and then move the clouds with the wind, and eventually it'll rain somewhere or snow somewhere, and it comes back to the earth, and then eventually it goes back into the ocean. So you see, everything is cyclic in nature, and there is this conservation of matter that Lavoisier saw, and then later on, Einstein said E equals mc squared. They made an atomic bomb, and they showed that matter can transform into energy, and energy can go back to matter. So there's conservation, the law of conservation of matter and energy, and that means that they're eternal. And that just corresponds exactly to what Krishna is saying, that his inferior spiritual energy, the Prakriti, is also eternal. All the forms are not eternal, but the energy itself is eternal. It can never be destroyed. It can never be controlled also by mundane scientists and scholars and so forth. They cannot control it because it's eternal, and it belongs to Krishna. It doesn't belong to them. So, and then the next verse, in the purport it says to 9.10, it is clearly stated here that the Supreme Lord, although aloof from all the activities of the material world, remains the Supreme Director. The Supreme Lord is the Supreme Will and the background of this material manifestation, but the management is being conducted by the material nature. By the demigods and so forth, and the laws of nature that Krishna establishes. Krishna also states in Bhagavad Gita that all of the living entities in different forms and species, I am the Father. The Father gives seeds to the womb of the mother for the child, and similarly, the Supreme Lord, by his mere glance, injects all living entities into the womb of material nature, and they come out in their different forms and species according to their last desires and activities. All these living entities, although born under the glance of the Supreme Lord, take their different bodies according to their past deeds and desires. So the Lord is not directly attached to this material creation. He simply glances over the material nature. Material nature is thus activated, and everything is created immediately. Okay, so this is wonderful explanations right in the Bhagavad Gita. It's very profound. And in summary, material nature, without the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, cannot do anything. Yet the Supreme Personality is detached from all material activities. Then the next verse, Avajanti mam mudha manasim tanam asritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. It says, fools deride me when I descended in human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the Supreme Lord of all that be. So in the purport, there's some very wonderful statements by Prabhupada where he says, From the other explanations of the previous verses in this chapter, it is clear that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although appearing like a human being, is not a common man. The Personality of Godhead, who conducts the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the complete cosmic manifestation, cannot be a human being. Yet, there are many foolish men who consider Krishna to be merely a powerful man and nothing more. Actually, he is the original Supreme Personality, as is confirmed in Brahma Samhita, Ishvara Parama Krishna. He is the Supreme Lord. So, the creation, the maintenance, and the annihilation is all under the control of Krishna. And then it says, the foolish consider Krishna an ordinary human being because they do not know the confidential activities of the Supreme Lord and his different energies. They do not know that Krishna's body is a symbol of complete knowledge and bliss, that he is the proprietor of everything that be, and that he can award liberation to anyone. Because they do not know that Krishna has so many transcendental qualifications, they deride him. Nor do they know that the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in this material world is a manifestation of his internal energy. He is the master of the material energy, as has been explained in several places, Mama Maya Duratyaya. He claims that the material energy, although very powerful, is under his control, and whoever surrenders unto him can get out of the control of this material energy. If a soul surrendered to Krishna can get out of the influence of material energy, then how can the Supreme Lord, who conducts the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the whole cosmic nature, have a material body like us? So this conception of Krishna is complete foolishness. Foolish persons, however, cannot conceive that the Personality of Godhead, Krishna, appearing just like an ordinary man, can be the controller of all the atoms and of all the gigantic manifestations of the universal form. The biggest and minutest are beyond their conception, so they cannot imagine that a form like that of a human being can simultaneously control the infinite and the minute. Actually, although he is controlling the infinite and the finite, he is apart from all this manifestation. It is clearly stated, however, concerning his yogam aishvaryam, his inconceivable transcendental energy, that he can control the infinite and the finite simultaneously, and that he can remain aloof from them. Although the foolish cannot imagine how Krishna, who appears just like a human being, can control the finite and the infinite and the finite, those who are pure devotees accept this, for they know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, they completely surrender unto him and engage in Krishna consciousness, devotional service of the Lord. Wow, what powerful statements by Prabhupada. Okay, so more and more evidence that confirms and validates what is being said in Srimad Bhagavatam. In this verse, Idam hi Vishwam Bhagavan Evayitaro. The Supreme Lord, Personality of Godhead, is himself this cosmos, and still he is aloof from it. From him only has this cosmic manifestation emanated. In him it rests, and unto him it enters after annihilation. Your good self knows all about this. I have given only a synopsis. And the same thing is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, 9th, 2nd canto, 9th chapter, 33rd verse, which we read yesterday. Okay, so where Krishna says that, let me just read it. So it says, O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without, he says, Brahma, it is I, the Personality of Godhead, who was existing before the creation, when there was nothing but myself, nor was there the material nature, the cause of this creation. That which you see now is also I, the personality of Godhead. And after annihilation, what remains will also be I, the personality of Godhead. So that means that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the source of everything. He existed before the material creation. In the material creation, he maintains it, and also he annihilates it, or he reabsorbs it into this transcendental body, Mahavishnu. So therefore, Krishna is the fundamental essence of everything, and also the Jiva soul, which is eternal, is also the fundamental essence. But ultimate fundamental essence of everything is Krishna himself. Okay, so this is giving deeper and deeper understanding of this discussion between Prabhupada and his disciples, discussing the philosopher Hegel. George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. Okay, so then let's go a little bit further, where Prabhupada says, Hayagriva, Prabhupada's disciple, says, in Philosophy of Religion, Hegel writes, God is a living God who is acting and working. Religion is a product of the divine spirit. It is not a discovery of man, but a work of divine operation and creation in him, God. Srila Prabhupada, yes, it is very important to understand that a man cannot manufacture religion. We define religion as the orders given by God, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, yada yada hi dharmasya, and so forth. So, why does he say this in answer to what Hayagriva just asked? Because Hegel is speculating. Now, sometimes his speculations may come a little close to what is the truth, but on careful analysis, as Prabhupada is doing here, what is he doing? So, Hegel writes, God is a living God who is acting and working. Religion is a product of the divine spirit. It is not a discovery of man, but of work of divine operation and creation in him, God. So, in order to not be a follower of Hegel's logic, Prabhupada always speaks the truth based on the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagvatam. So he says here, so Hegel's talking about, he says, religion is a product of the divine spirit. Well, whatever that means. But Prabhupada gives the correct statement. He says, we define religion as the orders given by God. There it is. As stated in Bhagavad Gita. So, when Krishna says, in order to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to reestablish the principles of religion, I appear myself millennium after millennium. Prabhupada says, this is religion. Religion rests on the orders of Krishna or God, and if you strictly follow Krishna's instructions, you are religious, pious, and transcendental. If you defy Krishna and manufacture your own religion, you are asuric and demoniac. Wow, Prabhupada has nailed down what is religion. He's not going to be misled by Hegel with his mellifluous words. You know, he's saying things that sound right, but when we actually look more carefully, we'll see that he's just speculating. So let's see that. Now Shamsundar chimes in. According to Plato and Kant's philosophy, these temporary objects are representations of an ideal. This table, for instance, represents or expresses the ideal table, but it is not the ideal itself. So yesterday I said, why did Shamsundar try and change the focus of what was being said? Well, let's see if Prabhupada falls for that, let's say, thread that Shamsundar has entered, because the thread is the real thread is what is religion. So Prabhupada said, oh, we also say that this material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. It is like a mirage. Sridhar Swami said that it is due to the actuality of the spiritual world that this illusory world appears to be true. Because there is, in reality, a real table, we can perceive this table, although the entire material creation is but a perverted reflection of the reality. People are enamored by it. People take this to be a real table, a real body, a real society, a real happiness, and so on. Sham Sundar. Hegel would say that these are genuine externalizations of the reality, that this is a real table and that these are real objects. It is not that they are images of the real, but that they themselves are real. Whoa. Now, let's see what Prabhupada is going to say. What does he mean by real? For us, reality means that which does and will exist. If this is not the case, it is not real. Na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhava vidyate sata. Ubayor apitirstu natas tvaneas tatvadarshabhi. Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent there is no endurance, and of the existent there is no cessation. This seers have concluded by studying the nature of both. Bhagavad Gita 2.16. Prabhupada. Reality refers to that which exists eternally. This table exists temporarily. Therefore, it cannot be classified as reality. It is like a dream or hallucination because it is temporary. We cannot say that a dream is real, although in a dream, everything appears to be real. Wow, he just decimated Plato, Hegel, and so forth, Kant, all of them. Shamsundar. But isn't a table on the spiritual platform an absolute table? He said, but isn't there a table on the spiritual platform, an absolute table? Prabhupada. Yes, in Krishna's abode there are tables, chairs, all kinds of furniture eternally existing. But these things, meaning these things in the material world, are manifest here only temporarily. So Hegel's point, that it is not that they are images of the real, but they themselves are real. No, not correct. Srila Prabhupada, the object is an expression of the spiritual energy. Whatever is manifest is the energy of Krishna, but one energy is eternal and another energy is temporary. That which is manifest temporarily is material, and that which is manifest eternally is spiritual. So, the energy in the table in the material world is eternal, but the form that it takes of a table is not eternal. So, and another thing is that the material energy is inferior spiritual energy of the Lord, because sometimes it's manifest and sometimes it's not manifest, but the spiritual world is always manifest. So therefore, there is some differences in the energies of the Lord. And Prabhupada is pointing it out. Whatever is manifest eternally is spiritual, and whatever is manifest temporarily is material. So Shamsundar says, so in that sense, can you say that this table is made of spirit, but at the same time is not? So they're trying to mix everything up, and mix Prabhupada, but he doesn't budge. Srila Prabhupada. Originally, it is made of spirit in the sense that Krishna is the whole spirit, and because it is Krishna's energy, it is factually Krishna. You may make various images out of clay. You may mold pots and bricks, and they may be manifest temporarily as pots and bricks. But originally, they are clay, and when they are destroyed, they will again merge into their original condition. There are three conditions: the formless condition, the form, and again a merging into the formless. In Srimad Bhagvatam, Krishna tells Arjuna, tells Brahma, Lord Brahma, Aham evasam evagre, nanyat yat sad asat param, paschad aham yad etachcha, yo vasisyeta susmi aham. It is I, the personality of Godhead, who was existing before the creation, when there was nothing but myself, nor was there the material nature, the cause of this creation. That which you see now is also I, the personality of Godhead, and after annihilation, what remains will also be I, the personality of Godhead. Bhagavatam 2.9.33. So Krishna existed in the beginning of the creation. He maintains the creation, and when the creation is annihilated, he continues to exist. Sham Sundar. Therefore, the Mayavadis would say that this table is Maya. Srila Prabhupada. They say that it is Maya, but we say that it is temporary. Sham Sundar does. But there's also a spiritual world full of form. Prabhupada, yes, but the Mayavadis do not know of this. What is the source of these forms? The Vedanta Sutra states, Janmadasya. Form comes from the original source. These forms that we see here are not eternal forms. They are imitations, perverted reflections of eternal forms. A reflection is not eternal. Sham Sundar. Hegel says that these forms are not eternal, but that the interaction of forms is an eternal process. Prabhupada. A mirage is neither factual nor eternal, but there is factual and eternal water somewhere. Otherwise, how could anyone have a conception of water? Sham Sundar. But if the universe is rational and everything has a purpose, this temporary form is also spiritual because it has some kind of purpose. Prabhupada. Yes, we are utilizing everything for Krishna's purpose. Our purpose is to make the best use of a bad bargain. Sham Sundar. But what if a person doesn't know the purpose? Is the object still spiritual? Srila Prabhupada. Yes, whether a person knows or does not know, fact is fact. We have only to receive knowledge from one who knows. All objects are spiritual, but one who does not have knowledge does not have the eyes to see that spirituality. Sham Sundar. Then is God's plan unfolding itself everywhere, whether we understand it or not? Srila Prabhupada. Yes. He reveals himself in Bhagavad Gita, and he sends his representative to unfold his plan. The essence of things is spiritual, but our imperfect vision makes things material. Sham Sundar. Hegel believes that everything has a purpose, that the whole universe is rational, and that it is unfolding under the direction of reason and the spirit of the Absolute. Prabhupada. Certainly. Only rascals think that there is no purpose in life, that everything is a result of chance. Sham Sundar. For Hegel, in order to understand this reality, we must examine the interrelationships of things. Srila Prabhupada. We also teaching like that. The origin of everything is Krishna, and Krishna's energetic expansions constitute everything. Prasya Brahmana Shakshaj Jata Vedo Hi Havyavat Devanam Purusham Ganam Yagyena Purusham Yajate. O fire, God, you are a part of the Supreme Personality Godhead, Hari, and you carry to him all the offerings of sacrifices. Therefore, we request you to offer to him the sacrificial ingredients we are offering the demigods. For the Lord is the real enjoyer. Srimad Bhagvatam 5.20.17. Physical existence is heat and light. And these energies emanate from Krishna, the original light. Everything material and spiritual is composed of heat and light. One who has eyes to see, that which is spiritual can see. Sham Sundar. Hegel attempted to establish the relationship between concrete realities. Isolated facts or moments, as he calls them, can never constitute the truth because the truth is the whole and integrated unity that is organic and dynamic. Srila Prabhupada. Just by analyzing ourselves, we can understand that I, the soul, am existing and that my bodily features are changing. When things change, we call them material. The spirit soul exists in all conditions, and that is the difference between spirit and matter. Sham Sundar Das. Moments, factors in the organic whole progress in an evolutionary way according to the course set by reason, which Hegel calls the Weltgeist, the world spirit. Srila Prabhupada. That world spirit is a person. Unless you accept a personal God, there's no question of reason. The reason guiding everything in the universe is explained in Bhagavad Gita. Maya dakshena prakriti. This material nature is working under my direction. Bhagavad Gita 9:10. Direction means reason. Therefore, as soon as you speak of reason, you must accept the Supreme Person who is directing everything according to his supreme reason. Okay, so we'll stop right there, and then we'll continue tomorrow. You see, Prabhupada won't let the speculators have the floor. He always stops and explains what is the Krishna conscious understanding of things. Sometimes these speculators like Hegel come close to Krishna consciousness, and sometimes they go very far away. But fundamentally, by their speculation, they're making many mistakes. And as we go along in this discussion, you'll see Prabhupada is going to point one after the other mistakes that Hegel has made, even though Hegel is considered such a important philosopher. Actually, what they do is simply confuse things. They don't clarify things. That without Prabhupada's purport, we would also be confused by the so-called scientists and philosophers of this world, who are basically only speculating. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Are there any questions? Any questions? No questions? Okay, so then we will go on to the next program, which is Prashadam. How many people were listening?